In high school, we played a game. Many years later, we got back together to play one more. Little did we know, this time, the game was real. Join me, Aram Vartian, on Start Playing Games for a brand new type of fantasy role-playing. In DieRPG, you play a group of real-world, deeply flawed adults who are transported into a fantasy realm via a predatory, sinister role-playing game. The game transforms your characters into paragons and rewards them with strange and frightening powers. In DieRPG, you are confronted with your truest desires and deepest fears. And only you can decide when the game is over. Check out all of my available Start Playing Games campaigns at aram.gay. My name is Aram, and my pronouns are he, him. I'm the producer of the Dungeons & Dragons podcast, God's Fall.
My name's Dylan. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a physicist from Canada.
Welcome to Kill Every Monster. This week on Kill Every Monster, we are featuring the Dryad.
The monster manual doesn't describe the Dryad. Instead, we have this encounter. Travelers entering a forest might catch a glimpse of a feminine form flitting through the trees. Warm laughter hangs on the air, drawing those who hear it deeper into the emerald shadows.
We are joined by Emily Buza. Emily is an actress, writer, and podcaster. She is the co-host of Whelm, the Young Justice Files, a deep dive podcast about discussing and analyzing the DC Comics animated series Young Justice. She can also be heard as a guest on several audio dramas and actual play podcasts, often playing superheroes, women with magic, and ladies in space. She can be found on Twitter at Emily of Arden. Welcome to the show, Emily.
Thanks for having me.
Ladies in space is my favorite genre.
I have played quite a few ladies in space at this point. And there are more on the horizon. It's a specific subset of typecast.
Just ringing the earth. Just dozens of women in space ready to go.
Is this an attack force or like?
No, they're defending or investigating, or maybe some are for attack. They have different jobs, Dylan. Not all women are the same.
And at least one of them is running a circus.
Yeah, sure. A space circus. Why not? Absolutely.
Actual role I've had. Lady running a space circus.
Yeah. Got like a big old Spelljammer pirate ship up there. Yeah.
Starting off strong.
Back on track.
Emily,
what is a Dryad to you?
A Dryad is just a pretty lady in a tree. That's all she is.
Yeah.
She's a pretty magic lady in a tree.
That's literally more of a description than Dungeons & Dragons offered.
Right after we had decided that this was what we were going to be discussing, I was, for various reasons, rereading Anne of Green Gables, which is a lovely historical novel. It is beautifully written. I love it from my childhood. And there's a moment in this book where...
PEI.
What?
Canadian books.
Yes, indeed. From Canada.
Yeah.
And there is a moment in this where Anne tends to name various things in her community, very fanciful names. And there is a pond that she dubs the Dryads Bubble, I believe it is. And she, when talking to someone about this, says, I read a book once that had a place called that. A Dryad is a sort of grown-up fairy, I think. And honestly, that's pretty good. Like, that stuck in my head as I was reading it because we had everything we had discussed.
Pretty
and I was
much.
like, yeah, no, that's about it. It's just kind of like older adult, not tiny fairy, no wings, but same vibe.
They have their own place. They've settled down.
It's a fairy in their mid-30s.
Right.
Basically.
They have their first condo.
It's really interesting because there's a handful of monsters that have, like, as we've run into, very deep, like, historical roots that are sometimes completely ignored by the game. And this one is specifically the opposite in that, like, You go back to the Greeks, and a Dryad is a tree lady.
Yes.
Is a lady,
She's a lady in a tree.
lives in tree.
That is the whole thing. And D&D turns it into kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
Kind of, no, a very weird thing. A series of weird choices.
It's a series of weird things, each of which feels a little less like it needs to be there.
Yes, I would put this firmly in our this was written by men who hate their wives. This is how this monster was written, much like several others of them. It just has this weird vibe where she traps men and keeps them against their will and forces them to bring her presents. Like every little stereotype at some point gets shoved into the lore when you go back.
I can go through our big headings. We have trees are curses. Cutting down a tree makes the lady crazy. Dryads are shy and reclusive except for when they want to seduce the party.
They deeply wanted to make this creature two opposing things at the same time. And instead of going with some dryads are X, other dryads are Y, they went all dryads are collectively both X and Y at the same time, even though these are opposing forces. And I'm like, you can't do that. This is me just ranting in a direction that is probably not productive. But
And it would be so much more fun if, like, you could do, like, what if there were two in every single tree and one was this way and one was the other way? What if just there was different dryads were different people? I mean, anything could have been more interesting than every single dryad is exactly the same.
The Dryad is one of those monsters that is written and presented with all of these things that make me go, that's just a person. But the monster manual doesn't treat it like that's just a person that happens to be magical in some way. And so it just gets a little weird.
They had to make it weird and charming in this weird obsessive way, right? Because they had to make it villainous in some way. Like otherwise it's literally just a person who lives in a tree and there's no reason to mess with them.
Let's make it a step worse. Its big gun Dryad specific ability is the tree stride thing. It can walk into a tree and walk out of another tree that's 60 feet away, which is Misty Step. So that's a thing the Eldrin have as a racial ability. Every ability otherwise is a druid spell. This is an Eldrin druid. That's it.
Yeah.
Even just mechanically. The only thing that doesn't fit that is it can also cast a weird variant of Charm Person. And that's not on the druid spell lists. Now it's a monster. Give it a tree.
She's just a lady living in a tree. And I feel like a lot of it, if you set aside some of the weirder elements of the Dryad that seem absolutely added just to make her seem more monstrous, she is just a lady in a tree, as I keep saying. And it feels like if your party ends up encountering a Dryad and fighting her, you have failed. Because this is a woman who's just like, hi, this is my home. Please respect it. Stay on the path. That's all I ask. And if you're fighting her, I'm like, you're in the wrong. You're in the wrong if you have just decided that, like, what has she done? What has she done to you? And so I feel like that's a lot of, as we're saying, it's a lot of the reason why I feel like it is added in the weird thing of like, she's gonna seduce your cleric. I'm like, what? Why? What part of looking at like the history of Dryad as a creature that exists in Greek mythology or just Fae lore in general made you go, clearly gonna seduce your cleric?
Well, it's because nymph and dryad occur in several sentences near each other. That means they're the same, Emily.
Is it because she's a pretty woman who lives in the forest, and any pretty woman who lives in the forest must automatically be trying to do some sort of evil love magic of some kind?
And if she's not trying to do evil love magic, then she's ugly and she's a witch.
And also probably doing evil love magic.
Female-coded monsters are either a fantasy of a pretty woman who tricks you and turns out to be evil, or an evil, not pretty-looking woman who is creepy because of that. As a person who thinks too much about media a lot, I feel like anytime that you make a creature or like an order in fantasy exclusively women, you have to ask two questions that are either, what does this say about the way this author views women? Or what traits does this author think are exclusively feminine? One or the other, or sometimes both. And like, I'm a person who is 100% on board with playing a pretty lady with magic in a fantasy setting, it is my go-to. I quite enjoy it. And I think that there is often a lot of narrative and metaphorical power in having a group that's like, this group is just women. Women get to have this power, especially when it is presented by like a female author as like a female power fantasy of like, for whatever reason, this group gets to be just women and we get to do this thing. Can be wonderfully cathartic as a player or as a reader or whatever kind of audience member you are. But then sometimes you get weird creatures and orders that are like, so why is this just a girl? And why does that make her evil? And what? We have a lot to unpack in that thing. Like, I personally don't mind the concept of having an exclusively female magical creature that's like, this is a female tree spirit. I'm just going, that's just what they are. They're all women, whatever. They pop into existence in trees and lovely.
If they're women in trees, first of all, I hate that it's all oak trees. Like, I think that helps them all like have one idea of what they should look like. They should come from all different trees, and they should kind of look like the trees they come from.
I have this in my notes because I am very passionate about this, that like, I firmly believe every Dryad should look like whatever they're connected to and have that, and that, how that creates this wonderful way of setting a scene for your players, because having a weeping willow dryad is very different from being like, this is an oak tree dryad or this is a pine tree dryad. Like, all of those have a different vibe to them.
The pine trees are all punk dryads.
Like a really pretty design of like a weeping willow dryad with like box braids.
Just little white flowers in the middle of each one all the way down. It would be gorgeous.
There was an artist in the 1920s, I'm going to say, I think that's right, I think I looked this up recently, named Cicely Mary Barker, who drew these gorgeous watercolor paintings of what she called flower fairies. And they were designed to look like very young children that were paired with a flower. And she wrote little poems about all of these different flowers. And I think it's like a 7-book set. I own it as like a complete, beautifully giant illustrated book called The Complete Book of Flower Fairies or something like that. And they each have these different personalities. And she wrote these little poems that kind of told you like where you can find the flower or what the flower is used for, if it has like medicinal purposes or if it only shows up at a certain time of year or things like that, of just little fun facts in a poem with these beautiful watercolor illustrations of like, this creature is connected to this flower. And so that kind of got in my head for like baby dryad who's like attached to a rose bush or whatever it might be. Like that concept of there are fairies that are specifically assigned to a flower, like stuck in my head as a kid. And I really remember really loving those. And I feel like the Dryad can be kind of, again, it's a grown-up fairy. It's the grown-up version of that concept of just, you're too big for just a flower. You need a whole tree.
I like this accidental idea of almost the hermit crab dryad mentality of like, well, I was born, I had a dandelion, and then all the wisps flew away and I had to move. So I lived in a rose bush for a while, and then there was an apple tree growing nearby, and that was really nice.
I love that.
I want a children's book of that concept. I want a children's book of that concept now, please. Universe. I hadn't even thought of that, but that is so cute.
Which brings us to a great thing to play on contrast to. For some reason, the decision was specifically the Dryads are going to be cursed. It is a fae who specifically fell in love with a mortal under a condition where that love was forbidden, which implies that sometimes love with mortals isn't forbidden. It's like, don't really follow it. And then a Dryad is created when a more powerful fae who is mad about her crush goes, no, you get in a tree. Which creates another problem for our whole tree lady situation, because now, why is it tree ladies then? You could very easily tell that story with a dude.
I don't love that aspect of the like write-up as it is. Because no matter what you do, it makes it so like every Dryad, no matter what she's doing, has somehow become like bitter, broken-hearted lady living alone in the forest, which is its own set of problem tropes. It's not drawing on anything else. Someone decided, hey, we're going to take a thing that is just women living in trees who protect nature and add on a weird level of somebody in the Feywild decides whether or not you're allowed to date a human. Apparently, like, because it also raises so many questions for me of like, who decides that? Who cares?
Yeah.
Also, why are we punishing people for love? That's the thing I don't love in fantasy. I hate curses that are derived as like, hey, you dared to do the very human caring thing of falling in love with another person and wanting to care and be a part of their lives. Too bad. Curse. Why? Let Dryads be ladies in trees who are there just because. That's enough for me. I don't need a weird curse explanation. I'm very happy to just go, some trees have ladies in them, and that's great. If for some reason you are committed to the idea of Dryad has been cursed to tree because of love of human, I feel like this is me writing plot hook that I jotted down because I firmly believe Dryads would make cool NPCs and quest givers, because the fact that a Dryad is like, I'm stuck with this tree and I can't leave this forest, gives you a very good excuse for why this person can't go do their own thing and why they would have to ask someone else to help. Because that becomes the problem with a lot of quests where you end up with a party going, hey, why are you making us do this? Why can't you go pick your own apples, farmer? Kind of thing.
It's 1,005 feet over there.
Yeah.
I can only go 1,000 feet away. So could you please hand it to me?
I feel like you could do something genuinely fun or moving or interesting with the idea of like a Dryad who is just recruiting every adventurer that comes through her forest, be like, hey, a while ago, very mean Fae cursed me to be in this tree and separated me from my boyfriend, who I haven't seen in a really long time and has no idea where I am because I got cursed to be part of this tree. Here is a letter. He lives in this town that I can't get to. Bring him this letter, and if you bring him back here, I will give you vague druid magic thing that is helpful in whatever way. And you could have that person be an NPC your party has already met, or an NPC that helps them on whatever quest they are on, and just have this little mini side quest that is a Dryad just being like, I'll give you whatever, just can you tell one person where I am because my life got screwed up for no fault of my own and I can't go.
I like the inversion of that almost is don't curse the Dryad, curse the dude. You have an immortal fae who loves a mortal, and you can turn it into this tragic little standard issue fairy tale of like, no, you love the mortal? That's fine. I'll make sure he lives, good 200-300 years. Oak tree. Like, she's not tied to the tree. That's her boyfriend. She sticks around.
Like maybe every full moon, he's a dude again or something.
Yeah.
Like Lady Hawk. They can only like meet in the dawn and the dusk.
Because this is the thing that bothers me about that version of the Dryad story. Why are there like fucking 50 of them?
Why does this happen so many times?
There should be the Dryad, and it should be like the story of like, oh yeah, now we have to warn people like this happened this one time, or like, if you're going to have a bunch of Dryads, you leave them just as nature spirits that occur sometimes. If you're going to make it a curse thing, you make it a curse story.
Yes.
The thing that people are told about, and it happened the one time, and we know the lady, she's over there, the only one.
If people were just being cursed left and right into Dryads, it would be more of a thing that people talked about. Oh man, Jenny got Dryaded, I mean, it would just be something that came up.
The tree thing. When they cut down the tree. I do like the idea of the tree really sort of being intrinsically linked to the Dryad. The idea that if you cut down the tree, you kill the Dryad, or it drives the Dryad a little bit. Driving the Dryad nuts is like, I'm not a huge fan of, but it's also like, I don't mind that it's linked in some way.
I like that it's linked. I don't like that it's madness. I agree.
Yeah. Like, I could fully see like a fun or interesting way of introducing a Dryad, of like, there is a Dryad who is hurt and is approaching your party, of being like, hi, you have a druid, can you fix my tree, because like my arm is broken because my tree got screwed up in the last storm, or something like that. I don't love the implications of femme-coded creature goes insane and evil because you destroyed a literal representation of her soul and well-being. So now she's just a crazy lady, especially when it's the thing of like, this woman is hurt, now she's evil. Now it's okay that you attack her. I'm like, that's just a hurt person. That is a hurt person who is made out of leaves. Please don't. Please help.
Every single emotion this creature has felt, they have been punished for in their origin.
Are Dryads monsters?
Dryads aren't monsters. They're just ladies in trees. I feel like this is a cool thing to include in D&D and in a fantasy setting, but I feel like it should be included as like a helpful or neutral NPC that you interact with, not as thing to fight and kill.
It very much feels like they're in the wrong book.
A little bit, yeah.
You don't put these in the monster manual. You put them in the DMG as like this isn't a thing to be killed. This is a cool way to get a plot going.
In my notes for various random ideas I had over the past couple of weeks that I put in my notes app for things Dryads would be cool as, I jotted down the concept of like urban Dryads, of like, especially in a fantasy setting, nature and civilization are nowhere near as separate as people sometimes present them as. So I could absolutely see and love the idea of like, there is a town you go into and there is a very big tree in the center of town in the town square. And there's a lady that lives in that tree, and everybody just runs with the fact that there is a lady that lives in that tree.
She's the mayor.
That's how you become the mayor. You live in that tree.
Yeah.
There are 100% Dryads in Central Park running around.
100%. Or things like there is like an orchard in some town that has like a very big agriculture thing. And there are some Dryads that just live in this orchard and they help out and they like make sure that like everything gets irrigated correctly. And they're very much like a part of this community and stuff. Like, I would love that. Like, just having them as a natural force in a universe, to me, is more fun and interesting than as like, this is a lady tree that you get to attack. I'm like, no, this is a lady tree that you can have a conversation with, who may give you a quest or point you towards an interesting object. Like, that's her job.
A community where a Dryad walked in and was like, I am going to live in your park and make sure everything is beautiful and your fountains run clean and apples are fresh and ready for anyone who walks by. I mean, that would be a blessing. They would be welcomed and encouraged as they would glide through town in the early morning, like shopkeepers would look out and wave. Like, it would be a neat part of your town, and it would be celebrated and encouraged. Like, they'd be like, come on, Dryads, like, we got a great apple tree here. Just try to grow the most enticing tree.
Just places that like plant trees, just hoping that like eventually, maybe one day when this tree is big enough, a random lady will walk out of it and be like, hello, I am here to help. Everyone's like, yes, we've been waiting.
Emily, how do we change Dryads in 5th edition?
When I sat down, I didn't realize there would be so much I'd want to fix, but there is a lot. I feel like the first thing for me is don't have them be a cursed fae. Don't have them be a cursed fae. Have them be a naturally occurring phenomenon in a fantasy world. That they are just, some trees have ladies in them, as I have said. Some trees have ladies in them, and that's enough. That is enough to have this, and allows you to create something that is a fae creature in the woods that is not some sort of weird combination of bitter and trapped, but is just like, this is my domain. I stay in my domain because that's what I do. There isn't a problem with it. She is not missing out on anything or has any of those weird connotations of like the great wide somewhere that she's trying to get to, or she's just, this is where I am. This is what I take care of. I am a career Dryad and I take care of this forest and that's what I do.
This is not a strange nature Rapunzel.
Yeah, no.
Just leave her in the tower. She's good.
They are just naturally occurring spirits, and they are like fairy kind of things that just live and exist in the forest and may or may not interact with a party given what your party has done and how your party interacts with an environment. Make it clear that their personalities can be various and diverse, because they're just people. Link them to nature and less of the curse thing. Don't love the curse thing and all of the stuff that stems from the curse thing of making them a very odd kind of gonna seduce your cleric lady in the forest. Like, let her just be a lady in the forest who may or may not interact with your party as she sees fit.
As a podcast network, our first priority has always been audio and the stories we're able to share with you. But we also sell merch, and organizing that was made both possible and easy with Shopify. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell and grow at every stage of your business, from the launch your online shop stage all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. They have an all-in-one e-commerce platform and in-person POS system, so wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. With the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms, Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers. Shopify has allowed us to share something tangible with the podcast community we've built here, selling our beanies, sweatshirts, and mugs to fans of our shows without taking up too much time from all the other work we do to bring you even more great content. And it's not just us. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. Shopify is also the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/REALM now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/realm.
Emily, tell me about your domain.
My domain is a beautiful, beautiful forest. It is varying trees, varying wildlife, full of different animals and plants, and there are all kinds of trees. It is verdant and lovely and vibrant. Right now it is the middle of spring, and so everything is alive and beautiful. Nature is always beautiful, but right now it is my favorite time of year because it is the couple weeks in the middle of spring where my tree is in full bloom, and it is just the most beautiful tree in the entire forest.
What kind of tree is it?
I am a cherry blossom tree dryad. Her appearance changes based on the seasons and shifts with what her tree looks like at any given time in the year. And so right now, since it is the height of spring, instead of the more common greens and earth tones that one might expect of a dryad, her skin is a very, very pale white, almost like the center of a cherry blossom, with almost hints of green where you might see veins on a human, like peeking through the skin. There is like a tinge of green there, but her hair is a bright pink that is dotted with cherry blossoms, and she is wearing what appears to be some sort of like short fey dress that is made of cherry blossoms. Whether it is something she is wearing or something that just grows with her form is unclear. And it is all cherry blossoms. They seem to kind of fade behind her. They travel in her wake as she walks. There are just petals on the ground behind her sometimes. And the only kind of more traditional earth tone about her is her eyes are a very deep, rich, warm, dark brown, like the bark of her tree.
What's a normal day look like for your Dryad?
My days vary depending on what is needed. Sometimes it's gathering fallen tree branches to make, little bundles of firewood when adventurers come through. Be helpful. If you give the adventurers the firewood, they won't chop anything down. Sometimes it's making sure that animals are finding the right paths toward where they need to go for migration or hibernation. Sometimes it's just, looking after an animal that might have gotten hurt somehow, or making sure all of the trees are growing the way they're supposed to. Just walking through, making sure everything's good, relaxing, enjoying a nice day out in nature.
In your path scurries out a little chipmunk. Stops, mildly distracted by like a little seed, goes to pick it up. A squirrel dives out of the tree, chases the chipmunk, runs off into the bushes, and the entire way you can hear in the little sort of chipmunk language, "No, I need to talk to her. Leave me, not right now." Comes back in grumbling. The squirrel is like up the tree looking down, doing a little angry squirrel chitter.
Miss Tree Lady?
Yes.
So you know how there's the one tree that we're not supposed to go near?
Yeah, we don't go near the bad tree.
No, the bad tree.
Yeah, we don't go near the bad tree.
It's not a good tree.
It's not good for you.
It doesn't make any nuts. And also, it makes the scary little guys sometimes.
What's wrong? What happened with the bad tree?
Oh, yeah. There's a guy at it.
Adventurers are always looking for, honestly, it's never even clear what they're looking for. Trouble, mostly. Some of them have been lovely people, but largely, if they are not themselves a problem, they are looking to find one.
Yeah.
Or cause one.
People are people.
People are people.
People are people.
Peoples is peoples.
And somewhere out in the woods, down near the bad tree, is another person.
So that's a problem.
At the bad tree, Aram,
Yes.
just go ahead and make me a sad person.
So, well, first of all, describe the tree.
The problem with this tree is that as it got bigger, it looks deader. This is a tree that started growing, green and verdant, and every branch that sprouted, every time it started growing out another ring, it got almost tighter, like the bark is trying to hold it back, like the nature that is causing this tree to grow knows it shouldn't and is trying to restrict it. What you wind up with is a tight, almost ebony bark of this spindly, sharp tree growing with no leaves. Trees aren't supposed to hate. It does.
All right. Well, then, I am about 4'6", got little goat legs, cute little horns, got a little bag around my bare chest as I scamper about this tree. I am a satyr by the name of Zup, and in my hands I have two little divining rods, and I'm going around the tree and I'm kicking it occasionally and like walking around and trying to find whatever I'm trying to find.
What are you trying to find, Aram?
I've been told that I can get power here, that there's something I can pull off this tree, a stick, a staff, a wand, something in that nature, but I can't, but it's all very tightly wound and it's all very strong and I can't seem to be able to get anything off it.
No, and you look around, there is a little sort of notch, almost like a burrow, near the bottom of the tree. And this seems to be where the divining rods are sort of pointing you.
Ah.
You were told that these would direct you to a place from which power flows. It is going off.
That's the power hole.
Yeah, that's the power hole.
Yes.
It seems like bad power, but it's power. And like, honestly, if you use bad power to do good things, is it bad power anymore?
There is no such thing as bad power. Power doesn't kill people. People kill people.
And as you get closer and you sort of like kick the tree, trying to see like, is there something under there? There's just this little like scrabbly hand, just barky and awful. It just pushes back your foot.
Oh, all right. I get out my little shovel and I start digging.
So, Emily, your Dryad approaches to that sort of metal on dirt sound grunts of this tiny little goatman trying to dig under the Gulthias tree.
Seeing that, stepping out of a tree and seeing that. Excuse me, sorry. Can you please? I am standing at like a respectable distance away from the tree. I am not approaching this thing. And just being like, excuse me, I'm sorry. Can you please just take like 5 feet back? We don't touch this tree. Please.
This tree here.
Yes, this exact tree here.
Well, I need to dig under this tree.
You really do not.
Well, I need to dig under it because under the tree is where the power is.
In that little hole, Emily, you
Yes.
look over and you can see this flat face. It almost looks like just a strip of bark got peeled off a tree, that flat wooden shape, and then just gouged in the rough approximation of where eyes and a mouth should be. It pokes out just enough to catch the light, looks at you, looks at him, back under.
There it is. I start digging.
No. Those are okay. I need you to understand. Sir, what's your name?
And he puts his little shovel down for a moment, turns to her. My name is Zup. When I get the power out of this tree, everyone will know that name. And when something amazing happens, they'll all say, that's what's up.
There is a light clang behind you as those tiny little gross wooden baby hands start trying to grab the shovel and pull it under the tree.
Step.
This is why I need you to take a few steps back, a few steps away from the tree while we have this conversation, please.
And he looks over, he's like, I could use a break. And he just puts his shovel down into the ground, lodges it in, and then thinks better of it and picks it up and carries it with him and like strolls over to you. So are you management?
Sort of. So what I need you to understand is that this is the bad tree.
Right.
We don't go near the bad tree. We don't touch the bad tree unless you are part of a qualified adventuring party who is planning to cleanse and destroy the bad tree carefully and with the utmost care and preparation. Then don't.
That's why I'm here. That I am here for, and he like grabs a leaf. Can I use prestidigitation to make the leaf look like a business card? Is what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
All right, so
that's actually a kind of cool move, and I hate that you thought of it, so I'll give it to you.
just grabs a leaf, pass it over, and by the time it gets to you, it is a little business card that says, in quotes, "That's what's up," and then below it, it is tree restoration and spirit management services.
Okay.
At your service.
So what's your plan? I like to be well informed about what's happening here.
Absolutely. And as this is clearly your domain, you should know. First of all, you're going to get the 2-for-1 special.
Okay, Aram, I'm going to interrupt you. I want to know, are you bullshitting?
Yes, I'm lying.
This is a very important question.
Yeah.
Then I want you to make 2 rolls. First, I want you to make an Arcana check to see if you know enough about this to be believable. And then depending, we're just going to do like, I'm thinking DC 10 to be just reasonable.
Yeah.
If you fall below DC 10, I'm giving you disadvantage because you don't know what the fuck you're saying. If you beat a 15, I'll give you advantage because you can sell it.
Okay, gotcha. So my Arcana is +4, and I rolled a 4 + 4 is 8. So I don't know I'm talking to a Dryad.
You are 100% sure that this tree has magic in it and you want to get it out. And this lady...
Right, this is just some lady. Just
Is
someone strolling through the
This is a
forest.
woods lady.
A bone white lady covered in flowers that you have no reason to believe knows anything about this.
Perfect. Okay, now I'm going to try and roll deception at disadvantage, right?
A disadvantage, yeah.
My first roll is 6 plus 3 is 9. My second roll is 2 plus 3 is 5. Okay, so listen, lady, here's what we're going to do. You don't have to... Sorry, I went into New York for no reason whatsoever. Listen, lady, here's what we're going to do. You don't have to worry about this. I know everything there is to know about trees. And
No, he
what
doesn't.
trees need most is iron.
Nope.
They don't get enough iron in their diet. Fortunately, I have ironized salt.
That's
Ironized
not a
salt is salt that you have rubbed against iron until it's nice and silvery. And he pulls out a little pouch of it. I'm just going to dig a big old hole and pack this right into the roots, just deep in there, and just press them up right against it.
Honestly, that won't do anything, but his hand will get bit.
And then make sure it doesn't get water for a week.
That you can't do that, it rains.
Oh, and if that doesn't work, we light it on fire.
That actually would work.
And that scares them out.
Nope.
If you'd like to help, you can start by collecting driftwood.
You don't get driftwood in the woods.
We do get driftwood in the woods. It's wood
You
that
can't
has
hear the narrator.
drifted down from the trees. I'm just assuming he's my patron. That's the commentary that's been going on.
Your patron just hates you.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Yeah, that tracks, actually.
His patron's an arch face. I would imagine they're just kind of bitter in general.
Yeah, it's just heckling.
This plan is, in the kindest way possible, a very bad idea. None of what you just listed will do anything to this tree. It's way too powerful for that. And the one thing in there somewhere that you listed that might do something is also incredibly dangerous without serious preparation beforehand for the rest of the wildlife in this environment, because you could start a serious forest fire and that really wouldn't be okay for the whole area. So I would request, as the Dryad in charge of this domain, that perhaps you could just move along and leave the bad tree alone, because it's about as under control as we can get it right now. There are plans for, when it's a little less dry out, to maybe try cleansing the tree and figuring out the situation. But right now, it's kind of very dangerous for the whole environment to jump to such a drastic solution that could seriously damage everything else here. And it would be very much appreciated if you could just move along. I would be very thankful.
Yes. Well, opinion discarded. And he turns around and he walks back to the tree. Just walks right back over to it and starts to dig again.
Ella has been very patient. She has one job. And she has been very patient.
Extraordinarily.
Can I use Entangle to stop him in his tracks? Is that how that works? What do I roll for that?
Okay, so you don't have to roll anything. You are invoking an effect. You are basically creating a patch of ground between him and the tree where just root and vine just curl out and try to snare his feet. And Aram, I need you to make a DC 14 strength save.
Okay. I have a +1, and I rolled a 3. So 3 + 1 is 4.
So you take a couple of steps, and immediately you invoke your magic. Ella just kind of shifts her hand, and the roots and the vines just tear down your foot. Like you're pulled maybe half an inch into the mud, pull you down. And as they go, Ella, you can feel right at the edges of your magic, you are too close to the tree. It's getting into it. And Aram, you just immediately feel this searing pain as some of the roots are the same sort of ebony, jagged, and just stab into your foot. They are grabbing you, and they are digging in.
I'm very sorry about that. I did not realize that we were that close to the tree. This is part of why I said that you shouldn't stand so close to the tree. It can do stuff like that when people are too close to the bad tree. I just needed to make you stop. I generally don't like doing that, but you wouldn't listen to me. I need you to understand, seriously, that this tree is very bad, and digging under it will result in you getting very hurt. Not for anything that I will do. I don't want to hurt you. You are a living creature in my domain, and that means that, you're important, as all living things are, to our ecosystem. But I need you to not touch this tree. This tree. Trees aren't supposed to hate. This tree knows how to hate. That's not a thing they're supposed to do. And that, I feel like, is enough of a reason to understand not to touch the tree.
Emily, was Ella here when the tree sprouted? Does she know what it is? Or does she just have the feeling of what it is, and that's more than enough to go off of?
That's a good question. I don't know. What's more interesting? I feel like Ella has been here for a very long time and has been doing this job for a very long time. So it's more of a question of how recent is this tree? Is this tree as old as this forest, or is this tree a relatively new development in your brain?
There are the remnants of a castle, not too far away. Just basically past the edges of where the grove around this tree end and this forest starts to get back to normal. That is completely overgrown. It is a little bit of masonry that implies a foundation. And that's all that's left from the days before this tree sprouted.
There was never a forest here. There was just an orchard, and the vampire was staked to one of the trees in the orchard. The forest grew up around this tree to hide it, to conceal it. It just kept growing and growing to hide this broken castle and this dark tree at the heart of it.
So then it's just a question. Did you live in the orchard?
Yes.
Then you remember. You know what's under that tree.
I feel like Ella was very young when all of this happened, but that's not saying much considering that Ella is some sort of ancient immortal fae thing. She looks very young no matter what, but she was very young when all of that happened, and has since gone from being an orchard dryad to being a forest dryad. But that's why there's a cherry tree in this forest.
You absolutely know what the risks are. You know what this tree is. You know what sits under it.
This impassioned speech, basically to my back, because you captured me as I was walking away from you, right? And my head's kind of hung low, and the heavy shadows of this tree fall over Zup as his head kind of reaches around. You hear the bones in his neck kind of pop, and his head turns at a weird angle, and his eyes are just black, and his face covered with beetles, and his voice is hoarse and doubled over. We know. It's why we seek it. And he clenches his fist, and he casts Arms of Hadar. You've got him wrapped in vines and leaves, and sprouting from the ground around you are black tentacles that reach up and grasp at you. And I need you to make a DC 13 strength saving throw.
It's going to be +0.
I rolled a 2. The sparkly purple dice betrayed me.
You then take almost like a necrotic acid, like there's a burning as they slap against you, and you take 9 points of damage.
I actually need you to make a Constitution save, DC 10. This is a concentration check.
My Constitution is also +0. She's very good at charisma, but
She's a nice lady.
she's just a nice tree lady.
Yeah, don't hit the nice tree lady.
I'm shaking this sparkly dice so much trying to get it to be good. Okay, that's an 11.
You are grabbed. These tentacles, these arms of just channeled power, reach up and they start trying to grab at you. and they pull. And there's just a split second where you look up and you see right around this little satyr's hooves, the roots start to recede, and you immediately realize, like, oh, shit. Reaffirm concentration and just squeeze in a little bit. It's the only thing keeping him in place. Your turn, apparently. It seems like we're in a bit of a combat situation.
Dryads don't have many offensive anything.
It's basically either try and charm me or summon a big stick and smack the crap out of me.
Especially with a warlock, you recognize what's happening. The moment that look comes over him, you've seen that. This is Fae in nature, but that is the Unseelie Court. These are the dark Fae. And that charm effect, it's not necessarily going to brainwash him, but it might be able to punch through whatever influence did this to him.
Realizing that bad things have just happened. Bad, not good, not part of the natural order things are happening to this little dude in front of me. I'm gonna try the Fey Charm effect that I have to try and talk him down from weird warlock possession so that we can all back away slowly.
That is a natural 20. I might not be that strong, but my patron sure as hell is.
Charm effect always sort of implies like an element of mind control. This is channeled sincerity. This is making that intent that, like, I am not here to hurt you. I am trying to help. Just burrow into your head. Make it known that that is true. And the moment you reach out and you feel sort of that edge of mind where you can start just making that clear, the hand just reaches out and grabs yours and squeezes until it starts to hurt. And the only thing you can do is pull back. Whatever has this thing, if he gets under that tree, that is still not the grandest of his problems.
He's not yours, Flower. He's mine.
I kind of feel like the tactical retreat for the moment and gear up for whether and watch to see, like, if the tree eats him. Okay, I did my best. I am not expected to get eaten by this tree. That is not in my job description. And just wait. And if the worst happens and this man tries to get all of his stuff, we will have prepared. We will step away for a moment. So Ella, seeing all of this, I'm gonna, take several more steps back from this tree, as I have already been. Wide perimeter. We don't go near the bad tree. It's very bad. Gestures vaguely. And Ella, seeing how this is beyond what she can really handle. This isn't what she does on a daily basis. Fighting people with weird powers. Not my day. Ella is going to step into a tree but not leave. And the other thing I would like to do in my ability to speak with plants and animals is I'm gonna see a little bird that's chilling out near here, who's been kind of watching over stuff, kind of being like, what's happening at the bad tree? Like,
It's got to be a crow. It's a morbid curiosity thing. They like the bad tree. They think it's cool. They know not to go near it, though.
Yes. It's my little one of my little goth buddies. They gather in groups. They talk about a lot of stuff. Sometimes they bring me shiny things. It's really cool.
Like shiny things. You're nice. You deserve shiny things.
Thank you. They aesthetically like being near the tree, but we've also had an ongoing conversation about how, the tree is actually like...
Don't go near the bad tree. The bad tree is mean.
Yes. Thank you. Take only pictures, leave only footprints. It's important. Now, I am putting a lifetime of Girl Scouts into this character also.
Awesome.
That's what I've learned.
It's coming through. I like it. It's great.
and she is gonna speak with this crow and be like, hey, I'm trying to think of a cool crow name. I feel like every animal is named for some reason. I named that chipmunk Frederick. Alistair the crow.
Alistair, yeah.
Hey, Alistair?
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if you could maybe go inform Daisy, Rose, and Hydrangea to maybe head on over this way. I feel like I might need some backup. That would be very helpful.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Takes off.
And then just kind of fades into tree. And wait. She also is going to do buff stuff, but I don't know if I'm allowed to do that on this turn or my next turn or whenever that is.
We're going to leave initiative, basically. You have broken line of sight. I assume Aram is not chasing you?
Once Zup is no longer being confronted, Zup just casts poison spray to basically melt away all the plant life around him and strides towards the tree.
You get to the base of the tree, and there's the extra hand on the wheel now. You're not alone in the driver's seat anymore. You get down to that little hole in the roots, and that little hand comes up, and you feel your arm unbidden come up, and there's just that pulse of power. It's just this eldritch blast of force shatters that little wooden body. Doesn't even have time to hiss. And you set to digging.
Ella is going to activate bark skin. Like, it looks like armor. The color of her skin has not changed. It's that now there are like patches of like plate mail that is made of bark kind of thing.
Oh, that's cool.
It's just that and the shillelagh just having...
Yeah, what does your weapon look like?
Like a walking stick, like a trek, like when you trek through for the wood, like you'd have like a walking stick, and it has small vines wrapped around it and little bits of pink flowers and engravings, and it's a very, very beautiful thing. There's probably this may be very silly, but I feel like there near the top there's like a couple little like charms hanging off of it that she's been given by people that she's added to it, and like there's like a ribbon somewhere on it. It's very pretty, and it's generally for like, you know, going out if you need to move some branches out of the way while you're walking. Generally not used for hitting people. Today may be a special occasion.
You dig your way down, and you eventually lay hands on something that feels like a bit of root, and you pull. And it's hard. There's resistance. It doesn't want to move. It's attached to the tree. And as you drag the arm up out of the muck, you pull a skeleton. It is held together by the roots wrapping around all of the bones. This dark, stained red wood. As you get to the rib cage, the skull pops out at the top as you're just wrenching and dragging, and you see the teeth too long, too predatory to be man. And right from the center of the rib cage is sort of the heart of the tree. Just this root with this gnarled bit, almost shaped like a heart. And then you just have to separate it from the rest of the tree.
Grab the stake, grab the skull, and pull the two apart until they both come free.
You yank, and the moment that heart is sort of dislodged, pulled from where it should be, the bones just fall. The moment that is disconnected, those gnarled roots wrapped around it, they seem to lose all strength, all will to hold. They might as well be fucking threads. And the skeleton drops to the ground, and you're left holding this staff.
And the skull, right?
And the skull, yeah.
His eyes just go back to his normal brown eyes. The blackness clears from him. The darkness seems to fade. And he goes, there we are. And he puts his hand into the skull. Didn't that go well? It went great. Yes, it really did go great. It sure did. And then he starts whistling, and then casts darkness.
There is a 20-foot sphere of absolute jet black. And you feel, just by the edges of the tree, that little motion of air, those little eddies of sniffing. And Rose is just at your side. Her sisters are not too far away.
I step out of my tree. There is a pink lady. Nope, that's Grease. There is a woman with a very pink floral aesthetic, wearing bark armor, holding a very big stick, with a wolf next to her, who is also wearing a rose flower crown. For reasons. And she's just gonna stand there for a second, because this is where her day has gone. You've become a problem. We don't call in the wolves that often. They have their own lives to live, but sometimes people become problems, and we need to have some wolves here to intimidate people into not messing up the forest. So you're just in a sphere of darkness right now? Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah, that's sort of the thing. I get the move you were trying to pull, but darkness is kind of spatially locked. It's not a good getaway plan.
Well, I was assuming that I would then run away. That was going to be my
Out
plan.
of the sphere.
Yeah, I was going to run away from them, and just, and out of the darkness. That was the general idea. Might not be great, but that was the general idea. That was Zup's decision, not the patron. So it all went to shit right away. And my stealth check is 4 + 3 is 7. So I would imagine that he vanishes into the darkness. It rolls out in front of you. He slides to the back and walks out the back, and he's basically like, ha, those fucking morons, and then walks straight into a wolf.
Aram, all three of the wolves have advantage on smell-based perception, and you are a weird stink in the woods.
Who's holding a rotting skull. Yeah, I probably stink.
You come out of that sphere, and all three of the wolves look in the same direction. And the moment you take a step, it's just on a twig. Everybody sees exactly where you are as you walk out, dead confident that you are getting away.
Right, and there's just darkness, maybe 5 inches at my back, and I was like, and then the darkness just fades. Now look, hang on. There's no reason for us to fight.
She is approaching very calmly while holding her walking stick, now covered in bark armor. You set a tone, so she's just being prepared. She's not approaching aggressively. She is just walking forward, and if that looks aggressive to you, that's your own thing to examine.
That's fair. That is completely fair.
If a woman walking with purpose looks aggressive, consider something.
You may have made an error in your day.
It's kind of a combination of the armor and the walk and the wolves. All of it feels a little aggressive. So I think wait, look, hang on, wait a minute. I think we just got off on the wrong foot here. Clearly, you had a problem with the tree, and he looks over at a tree, which I assume is breaking apart. And
oh yeah, you pulled the heart out of the thing, almost immediately, it sags.
There we go. Told you. Professional.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Thank you for trying to take care of that tree. But I believe I see that you're holding something there.
Oh.
There's a saying for generally existing in the forest, but my forest specifically, I try to remind people of take only memories, leave only footprints. It's a very good way to remind yourself of how to best respect the environment that you are visiting. And it would be very helpful if you didn't take that stick and take it somewhere where it might cause another bad tree, because that can happen. And we don't want that. So if you could either destroy that stick or leave it here for me to address, I would be very thankful. All right?
There's just this low growl, just kind of She's not being aggressive. We are prepared to, though.
Yes, there are 3 wolves in Flower Crowns who are my friends. I don't control them, and if they decide, like, I've told them maybe don't, but, like, they might. That's not me. I'm not saying that out loud. I'm just clarifying. These wolves can do what they want. They just happen to be wearing flower crowns and have decided that you have made my day worse.
Can I, sleight of hand, a splinter or a bit of a branch or part of this stick and break it off from the rest of it?
You can certainly try.
That's what I'm going to do. That is a 19 plus 3 is 22.
That's going to be opposed by a perception roll for you, Emily. It's a +4.
I rolled a 12, but that means it's only a 16.
So then I guess he would be like, oh, look, you got me. But this was fun. And he just takes the staff and cracks it over his knee.
Aram, I want you to roll a dexterity save.
So +3, and I rolled a 13. +3 is 16.
Okay, so you're going to take 7 points of necrotic damage, and you are hurled 10 feet back. So you snap a fairly fucking powerful magic item over your knee. There's just this explosion of necrotic energy. Like, everyone else is kind of keeping their distance, and yeah, no, you just watch this satyr go flying.
Bad tree. See? I tried to make that clear. It does that. It does things like that.
Oh, yes, well, you were clearly right. And if I had just listened to you from the beginning, who had nothing but my best intentions at heart, none of this would have happened.
Yes. Yes.
I am much wiser today, thanks to you, Tree Lady.
Can I roll an insight check? I just want to decide whether or not she's going to take you at face value.
Very sketchy.
100%. I'll roll deception. That is going to be a 16 plus 3 is 19. He's a good little liar.
So that is an 18. Ella's just going to let you believe that you believe that. That's what she thinks has happened. Like, she's not sure, but she thinks you think you're telling the truth.
Yeah.
I hope that you've learned a bit from this, and I would ask you to, I know that that is broken, but if you leave it here, I can properly dispose of it, and that would be helpful.
Very gently places all the shards in front of you with a big flourish and a bow, and then takes a step back.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much. I will be able to, just make sure that those are properly cleansed and burned and gotten rid of, because that's been a big problem in the forest.
So happy that I could help.
Sup, as you turn to walk away, you're left sort of cradling your stomach.
Yeah.
Where, you were blown away. And just on the inside of your bicep, just down in your elbow, just where you're kind of holding it to your stomach, there's that little bit of black wood just embedded in your arm as you just sort of bleed down onto it. And it hums just a little. Ella, you know exactly what you're doing. This is a relatively simple ritual. Just sort of not even quite consecrating, just driving off some malicious energy from the stick. And then it's just a bonfire. Just a quick little, not even a huge flame, just a little thing, get rid of it.
Yeah. Controlled flame. We keep it, there's some rocks around it to help keep a perimeter around the flame so that it doesn't get onto any of the underbrush nearby. The bark skin is gone. I am just normal me now, and I'm just sitting with 3 wolves, all wearing individual personalized flower crowns, giving everybody some scritches, just waiting. So, it's part of the job. Sometimes this happens. It's okay.
They're positioned just right, so all 3 get lap space for their heads.
Yes.
They have to share.
Yes. Yes, of course.
Thank you for joining us for a DM deep dive into the Dryad.
For more information about us, notes for each episode, and ways you can help support the show, head over to killeverymonster.com.
If any of the ideas we've discussed on the show have sparked some of your own, tell us about it on Twitter at KEM Podcast. You'll find me at DJ Malenfant and Aram at Aram Vardian.
For ad-free episodes, early releases, bonus episodes, print-ready maps, our new audio DMs notes, and my character sheets for each encounter, head over to patreon.com/killeverymonster. You can also listen to ad-free episodes and bonus content by subscribing to the show on Apple Podcasts.
Our intro theme and many of the sound effects you hear in the show were created by Battle Bards. Check them out at battlebards.com.
This episode was produced by Aram Vartian and Dylan Malenfant. I also did the editing. Emily Buza was our guest. You can find her on Twitter at Emily of Arden. And if you are anything like me and all of that information just fell right out of your head, you'll find everything you need at killeverymonster.com.
And we'll see you next time
for Kill Every Monster.
Greetings, adventurers. Today we're excited to introduce you to a new story, Dark Dice, a horror podcast that blurs the line between actual play and audio drama, where the story is determined by the roll of the dice. 6 adventurers embark on a journey into the ruinous domain of the Nameless God. They will never be the same again. One of the players is not what they seem after a doppelganger, a creature that can assume the form and voice of whatever it kills, infiltrates the team. As the players are picked off and replaced one at a time, can they figure out who the monster is before it's too late? Can you? Here's a quick example of what our show sounds like.
The shambler with the jar of liquid inside of him.
Soren Arkwright let loose an arrow that cracked the glass, passing through the spine of the creature. The shambler still managed to maintain its forward momentum, but stumbled as it eagerly tried to bite and swipe at Soren, landing near his feet.
As Jeff Goldblum has now joined our cast, Dark Dice is available however you listen to podcasts.
This show was produced and edited by Dead Ghost Productions. Find out more about us and all the shows we make at deadghostpro.com.